Welcome to another episode of Behind the Dreamers. I'm Jennifer Loading, and we are talking to the achievers, the creators, the magic makers, and the dreamers. These are our friends. These are your friends, and they are living the extraordinary. Well, I'm so excited about my guest today. This is going to be so much fun. He is a national motocross champion. He's been racing since he was 8 years old. He's won numerous state and national championships. And I think what's interesting about him is that he started his first business at the age of 15. So I am kind of excited to hear what he's doing, how this got going, and learn about what he's got here. So before we do that, I do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsors. So today's episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Photography. If you are a creator needing post-production, consultation, or promotion, Walt is your guy. Whether short films, YouTube films, photography work, or a new headshot, Walt can help you find a solution to match your needs. To learn more about him and his work, you want to go to photosbywalt.com. All right, this is going to be fun. Logan Lessar, he's a national motocross racer, a business owner, and an online coach. Through endless adversity and countless losses, he's learned to push through the tough times and develop a never quit mindset, which led to numerous championships in motocross and continuous pursuits of success with his businesses. Now he helps people develop an unbreakable mindset and become the best version of themselves physically and mentally, to eliminate their vices, push through their limiting beliefs, and dominate anything they would like to pursue. So Logan, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you here.
Thanks, Jennifer. I've been looking forward to it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So
Definitely.
Cool stuff you got going on here. I love it. It's funny. I bring a lot of people on this show, and I've had everybody from Olympic runners to I've had an Evel Knievel guy on here before. I've had musicians, and so I've had military people, and so I always love getting you guys on here that have done some incredible things, because I think it's really fun to get into the mindset of what it's like to be in these in these different pursuits, but then transfer those skills over to the business world. So I'm excited to have you here and to chat with you today. So let's start this thing off. Tell us a little bit about what it is that you are doing.
Yeah. So obviously I've raced basically my whole life. Like, that has been my whole life up until honestly just a few years ago. Like, this year was the first year that I completely transferred away from the racing world into just going all in on business. The last couple of years I've been focusing both on business while continuing my racing career, and competed at some of the top nationals in the country these last couple of years. And then this year has been the first year that I just decided, you know what, I'm going to go all in on business, because I don't know, I'd been racing for so long, and I had just really, really started to like business and like kind of pursuing that and growing it, that when I was at the races, I would find myself constantly thinking about working and business and everything. So I decided that this year I would prefer to end the year having worked on my business and trying to grow that as much as possible, versus looking back and having raced and wanted to instead have grown the business further, if that makes sense. But no, I've been, right now, I've just been focused on basically my agency, which is kind of like my side thing now. That's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And then mainly just focusing on building my personal brand, getting on really cool podcasts like this, and helping people, like you mentioned, with the coaching side.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say all this, and I think there are different seasons that we go through in our lives, right?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
I've had kids that played sports, and I know that that's completely different. But I do think these are all pursuits that we pursue, right? And my daughter played select soccer for a long time, and you probably know how select soccer is. It's extremely competitive, and as you move up, it becomes more and more competitive. And one day she came in her, I guess it was her freshman year of high school, she decided that, after she, like you, had done it for many years, she started when she was like 4, and that's all we had seen her do was soccer. And then she comes in at, 15 years old, and she's like, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, I want to do something different. And then she went into cross country and track and became a really good runner and got a scholarship to go run. And so
That's awesome.
I think we have these different seasons in our lives where we have shifts and changes. But I do think having done what you've done there, it's great skills that carry over into what you're doing now, because you learn, the work ethic and the persistence and the tenacity, and you learn how to lose and get back up. Right. And
100%.
business is like that.
Yeah, no, Everything, motocross was the biggest learning tool that I've ever had in my life thus far. Like, I learned so much. I learned everything from motocross, from, like you said, learning to lose, learning to win, pursuing, pushing through adversity, all kinds of things, and also building that no quit mentality, which I can genuinely thank my parents for that big time, because that was something they pushed on me, was that you don't quit, like, never. Because believe me, there was a lot of times where I wanted to, and I wanted to throw in the towel. And what was funny is when I was like way younger racing, they would tell me like, no, we don't quit. Like, you're going out there. Whereas as I grew older, they would leave the decision up to me, except they did it in a very, I don't know, tedious way, I guess, where they would kind of be like, it's up to you. If you want to throw in the towel, like, that's fine. Like, you can be done. But they would do it in a way where I was like, God damn it. Well, now I can't, because I'll feel bad about it. So it was kind of funny, but it just instilled that no quit mentality. And it made me learn that regardless of whether or not I wanted to go out there and race and do the race, actually going out and doing it, even when I didn't want to, afterwards, that's where I learned, and I was like, man, I'm glad I did that. Like, I am so glad I did that. And the earliest time I can remember was I was on like, I think 65cc size bike. So I was really little. I was probably like 10 years old, 11 years old at the time, maybe slightly older. But it was here in Lakewood, Colorado, and it absolutely downpoured, like just crazy, crazy rain. And like the main track was actually so rained out that because of the size bike I was on, we couldn't even race on that. So they switched our race over to the like little just mini bike track, which that one's just to kind of mess around on. But that was the only way that we could like do a race. Well, I wasn't there to qualify. I was actually there just to have a good time. My buddies were there to qualify for like this big race that was coming up. So I was just there to have fun. And I genuinely was like, I don't want to go out there. It's a mud pit. Like, I don't want to go out and race. And my parents were the ones who pushed me, and they were like, no, you need to go out there. You need to go race with your buddies. You'll look back years from now and be able to say that you're glad you went out there. You're glad that you did it and everything. And now I can actually look back and be like, man, I'm glad I went out there. And it was just a mud fest. But afterwards, like me, my buddies, we were all just drenched in mud, soaking wet. But no, it's cool to look back at those times and also be like, it builds that confidence, and it just builds that no quit mentality where it's like, I don't feel like doing it, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. I'm listening to you, and I think, what your parents did, being a parent myself and having kids that have done sports and stuff, it's almost like they figured this out. Like they instilled the discipline you in the beginning, and then you kind of got the discipline. And so they didn't have to tell you to do it anymore. It became more of, if I don't do it now, I'm going to be the quitter because I'm not doing it. Right. And that's what you want, and that's kind of, like with my kids, I always sort of had that same mentality too. It's like, we're going to start something, we're going to see it through. And there was there were things that they did do. Like I had one daughter that, all of them went into karate. One became a black belt. The middle one got to brown belt and decided, because we had to start making decisions on what we wanted to pursue. But we always had that kind of mindset that if you're going to do something, you need to see it through. You need to at least give it your all. And if you absolutely don't like it at some point, then we can have a conversation. But we're not going to put the money into this and go into it. You're going to just be, today's a bad day. I can't find my shoe. I'm not showing up. And I bring that up because we had those moments. We had the moments where the soccer shoe wasn't found or the socks weren't right. And they're like, I don't want to go. And you're like, you're going to find those shoes. You're going,
Yeah, exactly.
So it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
No, it's such a valuable, not skill. It's just valuable to instill that discipline. And like you said, over time, it just builds to where that becomes who you are. Like, you just can't quit. Like, that's just, it's breaching your standards of the person that you are,
Right.
And people always say, like, you won't live up to your goals, but you'll never breach your standards or something like that. So it's kind of like that.
It's good. So I have a quick question for you, and then I want to talk about your business a little bit, but I want to ask this because this is such a cool thing you've done. So when you were a little kid, were you like just on the bike? Like, I'm talking, because you started at 8. So before that, were you like hopping on the bike and you were like, how did this happen for you? Because I feel like this is like, it had to be something that like your parents were like, we're going to put them on this thing. You see these videos of little kids on these bikes and stuff, right? Like, they just put you on there and you're like, oh, this is my thing.
Yeah, well, technically, I always share this. I was technically on a bike before I was born because my mom did a national race while pregnant with me. So, which is kind of funny to say, but But yeah, no. And then I think I started riding at like the age of 2, and my parents were still racing at the time. So they like I just fell in love with riding. Like I just loved it. I was always at the track. Like there's these little toy dirt bikes that you can play with, and while they were out on like racing, I would be back at the trailer like building a in the dirt and in the sand like a little track to play with. And then obviously as I was able to ride, I just kept riding, kept riding, kept riding. And then eventually, just because they were racers, they got me into racing, and I just fell in love with it. And I mean, I did a lot of like the main team sports out there, like basketball, soccer, baseball. Like I did all of those. The one I like went the farthest with was basketball, which I mean, I didn't go far with it at all, but that's the one that I like stuck to for the longest.
Yeah.
But I just learned, and it was one day I literally came back from practice and I was like, Mom, I don't want to do this. Like, I don't like team sports. I just don't like it. Like, I don't enjoy it. So I personally have always liked the individual sports, like the racing motocross. And then aside from that, I love like skiing, snowboarding, wakeboarding, mountain biking, like all kinds of different things. But just having that individual factor.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're in Colorado, right? That's where you're at?
Yeah,
Great
which is
place.
great because we've got about everything except
Yes.
for surfing because we don't have the beach. But
Yeah.
we got everything else.
We have family there. Well, and my husband's an ultra marathon runner, so I mean, I get all that. That's why, and I think it's interesting that you brought your parents up because definitely there. I thank you for sharing that because there's some influence there, right? Like your family's probably pretty active, and that's how my husband's. We're both runners, and my husband's been an ultra marathon runner. He's actually done the Leadville 100 in Colorado before. So,
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he's done some pretty crazy things too, and I think that everybody. It's funny. All of my kids have done mostly individualized type sports. They've either been in cross country or track, or they've done, karate, or my son they did play soccer. My daughter did do soccer, but ended up going in cross country track. My son did a little bit of that, of lacrosse, pulled out of that, went into cross country and track. So I get it. And I can totally understand the individualized sports. So, well, good for you. That's awesome. And, what a cool story that is. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with your clients, because obviously that's the important part here. You're building this brand. You're trying to get out there and get known for what you're doing and carrying your talents over. So tell us a little bit about this agency and what you're doing.
Yeah, so the agency is what I've been doing for the last couple years, just a marketing agency, nothing too exciting. But that's what I've done the last couple years. That's what I ended up going to South Africa. I lived there like few months out of the year, or actually quite a bit throughout the year. So I just chased the summers, but that's what drug me out there because of my business partner living there. So the agency has been like my life the last few years, and I've learned a lot from that. And then more recently, I've transitioned into building a personal brand and kind of looking to go into kind of the coaching and that type of space, specifically because of the effect that mindset mainly has had. I think I say fitness as well because I don't think that you can have a strong mindset, confidence, anything like that unless you are in good physical shape. I think that's the foundation of everything. At least I know that from experience. And yeah, I mean, from racing, that's where like mindset, because everybody talks about mindset, but one thing is that even for me, I thought it was like this cheesy thing in the past. I was like, really, mindset? Like, come on, like stop talking about that.
Right.
But that totally shifted for me because it was literally a light switch that happened at a race like 2 years ago. And it made me realize, holy crap, like when you actually can control your mindset, which you can, the fact that you can do that and the effect it actually has is unbelievable. And then obviously mindset is huge with sports, which I can't remember who it was, but it was an Olympic swimmer who I just saw the quote that she said with this, and it totally hit me, which was, once you get to a certain level, everybody's talented. Everybody knows what they're doing. Everybody's been coached by the best coaches. Everybody's training all the time. So when you get to that level, maybe 10 to 20% of it is your talent and what you know. The other 80 to 90% is how you show up mentally to the event, which I was like, that is so factual. Like, I know that is so factual. So that's kind of what I've been going off of. And then in the business side of things, I also had to face so much mentally, and I've just learned so much that has genuinely helped me a lot. And just had to go through a lot of different stages of adversity. And then when I first went to Cape Town, I went through a very short, not a very crazy stage, but a definitely short and impactful stage of feeling kind of depressed. So I had to push through that and learn how to, first of all, learn why that happened and then how to prevent that from happening again. And just going through all of those things, I ended up helping quite a few people in my family, specifically both my parents, especially more recently on the fitness side of things. And then also I helped my brother, which yesterday, yesterday he won the biggest national championship in motocross in the entire country and arguably the world, which I am so ecstatic about because that is just unbelievable. I've placed top 10 there a few times, but he actually won it yesterday, which I'm literally blown away. So super pumped for him on that. But no, I've talked with him quite a bit in terms of like the mindset side of things, which I think has helped him quite a bit. So I've just seen the effect that mindset and fitness can have on me, on the people around me, as well as some of my buddies who went through some pretty deep stages of depression, and I kind of helped them through that. So that kind of just had me fall in love with the idea of helping people, as cheesy as that sounds, but didn't start that way. So yeah, no, I've been really enjoying that side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and congratulations to your brother. Wow, I'm gonna have to look this up. So congratulations, that's huge.
So
and you guys all sound like you're just a very active, successful family, which I want to touch upon all that. A couple things you said. One about the physical and the mental. And yes, one of the things I talk about with my clients all the time are these 4 domains in our life that we have to meet in order to live like this, what the 2% we talk about, a fulfilled life, right? And one category is your health and your well-being. And I believe, and I tell my people all the time, out of the 4 categories, they're all important, but the most important category is the health and the well-being. And that includes your mental and your physical health, because they go together, right? And if you think about it, like, how many people do you know that are successful, right? They make a lot of money, but their health is falling apart, right? Or they're miserable, right? Or maybe you're healthy, but you have so many insecurities that you can't function in life. And so that is probably the part that I emphasize. And having been, kind of I don't want to say an athlete like you, but I'm a runner. I've done marathons and I'm physically active. I value the importance of being healthy, not just physically, but mentally, because they have to be together.
Yeah.
And to your point about showing up mentally, I've told this story many times. There was many times, I don't race near as much now as I did. There was a period of time between like 2014 and 2018. We were racing like almost every weekend. We were at a half marathon, or my husband did like multiple times where he did 3 marathons in a row. Like he'd do a Friday, Saturday, and a Sunday marathon. So you're talking like 60 something miles, right? Was it 20? Yeah, 60 something miles, and we would talk about how we would show up for like a marathon and be game on, like ready to go, and then show up the next day for a 5K. And we're like, I can't do it. Like I just can't physically do it. Right. Because it all starts here. Right.
Yep.
It's what you think you can. And if you think you can't, you can't. But one other thing I wanted to mention, I had a Dawn Grunnagle. She was an Olympic trial qualifier. She lives here in Dallas. She trained my kids, both my youngest runner. She's she's had a baby, amazing woman. But I interviewed her when I first started my first podcast before the pandemic hit. And I remember interviewing her and asking her, like, what do you do when you get to the starting line and everybody is awesome? Like you're talking Olympic trial qualifiers here, everybody. And she said, I just focus and I rely on my tool belt. I rely on what I know because I've trained every day, and I just rely on that. And it was such a neat thing when she said that. Like, I haven't forgotten. I always remember things people tell me. And so that was one of the things I remembered about her saying that, because you're right. Like you said, when you show up and everybody's good, and you really have to get focused on what you're trying to do and stay in your lane, right? You can't focus on everybody else. It has to be what you know that you can do,
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually really proud of my brother for doing this, because it goes to that, which I didn't even tell him to do this, but he, like a month leading up to this race, he actually decided to complete. And my brother's young; he's 5 years younger than me. He's 14, but he decided that like a month or a few weeks before this race that he just won, I think he deleted his Instagram, not his account. He deleted the app off his phone, specifically because he didn't want to see his competition and what his competition was doing, specifically because he didn't want that to get in his head and think like, oh, they're doing this, oh, they're doing that. Like, he wanted to focus on himself and show up to the race knowing what he's done. And I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was really, really cool that he did that, which him and I had a really, really good conversation a few months ago that I think impacted him quite a bit, which we can definitely go into. But one thing that I wanted to mention in terms of like the effect mindset can have is about, I think it was 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, I went to this same race. It's called Loretta Lynn's, but it's the biggest national in the country. And like, there's so many, you have to go to an area qualifier somewhere around the country, qualify there. And then you have to go to a regional and then qualify there in order to actually qualify for this big race. So it's like, it's difficult just to get there. And then basically once you're there, it's you against 41 other people. Well, in your class at least. Well, I went there, and obviously there's all this training, all this preparation that leads up to it. My very first race, because at Loretta Lynn's, you'll have, if you qualified in both classes that you can do, then you can have a total of 6 races. So throughout like the event. And my very first race there, off of the start, I got into a really, really big wreck, and I didn't even finish my first race there. And to be honest, it wasn't even the factor of me not finishing. It was actually how scary the wreck was, because the start is probably the most dangerous part of the whole race, because it's literally you and 41 other people going like 40 miles an hour into this one corner on these machines that are so big and so powerful. And I think I remember, like, I was just coming in and these kids ended up wrecking over here, and then it just drifted out to me. And I think that one kid's like bike just came flying into me and I got hit. So I didn't finish that one, but going into the next races, I was genuinely, which I don't think this is the right mindset to have, but it just shows the power of it. I was so terrified going into the next races. I was so scared of that happening that I had the mindset of, I have to get off the start first. Like, I have to get off the start first. And for every single race for like the rest of the week, I ended up within like the top 5 guys going into the first corner every single time. And it was because like I was genuinely so terrified of that happening again that I kind of had that mentality of like, I have to get out in front first. And it was kind of that thing of, well, what if you don't? It's like, no, I don't think you understand. I have to. Like, it's not a question. So that was one thing that was just something that came to mind, of just the power of mindset. There is kind of, I just had no choice. Like in my head, I was like, I have to get out front.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's just crazy though. There's a guy, a KMF Awesome. He's a boxer. He's a southpaw boxer, professional. He did a documentary on Netflix. I interviewed him. His show's actually coming out this week. Incredible guy. You got to catch that episode if you don't, because he's just amazing.
Yeah.
He was talking about this. He took up boxing because he didn't want to get beat up. Because he didn't want to get beat up, and then he learned how to. He learned the formula. Like it became, now it was like, don't die. Just don't die. Like, right. Like you gotta fight to not die. And so the mind is powerful. You'll have to listen to that episode, by the way, because he explains it way better than I am. But that was his whole mentality, was it went from this thing to this thing. And I think a lot of, athletes and people that are trying to do things like that, they get something, whether they're fixating, I either got to get out there first, or I got to prevent this, or whatever that is, right? The mind is a powerful thing. Yeah. And I think it's the same way in business too, because if you think about it, we do the same thing. We got to make money, right? Like the goal is not to get bankrupt. It's to survive the business, right? It's to get the business and make it run. So I love it. I did want to ask you, because I looked at some of your stuff, and kudos to your brother for doing that. Let me backtrack. Kudos for your brother for taking that off, because I just went through a mentor program. I've been working with this mentor for 2 years. Incredible guy. He's originally from, I think, Sweden. I can't remember, or Scotland. Scotland. Anyways, there was a, I don't know if he was a wrestler or what he was, but he kind of did the same thing, where maybe he was a bodybuilder. He was a bodybuilder. He would not have any social media preference at all, like none. But when he would show up to perform, his stuff would sell out, because nobody would see him all year long while he was training. And he did that because he didn't want to know what anybody was out there doing. Like, right. Like he just stayed in his lane, focused on his work. He showed up top notch. And so when he showed up, his shows would sell out. They wanted to see this guy, And so I think there's something to be said about that too. In that when you're doing that, you're, because when we tend to look at other people, we get so focused on what they're doing, and then we start getting insecurities, right? Because we're looking at what they're doing. Can I do that? Am I going to be able to match up? And when we just shut that down, it forces us to, we don't know, just to stay in our lane and focus on ourselves and do what we got to do to win. So
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things I've struggled with for the longest time. And I still catch myself because social media is so bad about that, is the whole comparison thing. Because especially even, I mean, people's lives on social media most of the time looks way better than it
right.
actually is. And especially in the business world, like when that algorithm on social media realizes that you're trying to grow a business and make money, then all you see is all of these posts of these people and these young guys and all these people who are traveling the world and with the supercars and doing all these things. And it's like, here's
Yes.
how I made blah, blah, blah. And most of it is total BS, just trying to live the lifestyle, you know, but
Right.
it still gets in your head and makes you feel less than instead of just focusing on yourself. So that's one thing that I even make sure to catch myself on. And it's one thing that's tricky about building the personal brand lately is that like previously I would delete Instagram off of my phone while I was working on like my agency and stuff. And it would be the most like peaceful thing ever. And I wouldn't have
Sure.
any of that. Whereas now I'm like forced to have it because I have to post, I have to build the brand. So I have to catch myself and be like, okay, we're only on there for like posting our own stuff and replying to people's messages or whatever it is, but we're not consuming, like no consuming
Yes.
other people's things. And it's tricky. It's not easy to do because I mean the apps are just designed to obviously get you in there scrolling. But no, it plays a huge role on the mind for sure when you're seeing all that stuff. So I
Yeah.
definitely hats off to my brother for doing that because I think that was really smart.
Yeah, social media is I feel like I feel the same way about it. It's like there's some days because I do these podcasts, so I have to be out in the present all the
Yeah,
time, you know. And what's funny about that is like on my personal Facebook page, I don't even really I'll get in there for a minute just to scroll to see if there's any notifications and look at a few things, and then I
yeah,
get out. Like I have such a love hate with social media. It's like I'm in it all the time because I have to be in there, but I just get in
yeah,
there to do what I got to do, and then I get out of it because it makes me crazy. And you're right. There's so much of stuff out there that it's like you don't know what all is real and what isn't, and who to follow. And so, but I do want to bring up because I did look at some of your stuff, and I want to tell you, you know, I mentioned this even to my kids. I was talking about you the other day. A lot of your messaging that you're sending to young people, which I think is impressive because there is so much stuff out there, so much that kids are, you know, with today. I think there's so much out there for them to see and hear and
yeah,
do, right? And so I love what you're doing as far as, you know, like I even saw something on the vaping thing. I saw one of your messages on that,
yeah.
and I was like, thank you for putting that stuff out there because so many kids now are doing that, and it's just
Yeah.
not a good thing to get, you know, into. I
Oh,
don't
I
want
could
to get
talk about
into
that
all
all
that,
day.
but thank
Yeah,
you
I could
for
talk
what
about
you're
that all
doing.
day.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
thank you for doing that, and I think you're a great role model for young people your
appreciate it.
age, you know, and putting that out there for them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I must say I could thank the motocross world for kind of making sure to keep me away from all of those things because I don't know, there just wasn't that, you know, like my
Right.
friend group and my group of people, there just isn't that in the motocross world. There obviously
Sure.
is, like there's people who do those things and stuff, but when you're competing at that national level, and I mean, I trained, especially during COVID, we literally lived at training facilities throughout the country, which that's what my brother does now is he lives in either Oklahoma or Florida, basically at these training facilities, training every single day. And I mean, it is an insane routine that he's following and stuff. So there isn't room for that. So I was never introduced to it, but I have seen it, and I've just always my perspective on it has always been if I don't see a legitimate reason for doing something, then I'm not going to do it. And if it's
Yeah.
not going to benefit me, then I'm not going to do it. And especially if it's something that I already know is genuinely horrible for me,
Yeah.
such as vaping, smoking, drugs, whatever, if I look at it and I'm like, okay, I know this is really bad. Is it going to help me? And if the answer is no, which it is no, then I'm like, well, why would I do it? Like I've had people approach me. I've had my buddies ask me like why I've never done it and if I'll do it. And I sit there and I'm like, why would I? Like
Sure.
why would I genuinely? Like I love my situation right now. I'm in good physical shape. I'm leveling up every single day. Like I like what I'm doing. I actually, as cheesy as it sounds, like my life. So why would I do something like that, which is simply an escape from reality? And for teenagers, it's about being cool. It's about
Right.
doing the cool thing. which I can genuinely say that winning national championships in motocross, traveling the world and building a business is a hell of a lot cooler than sucking smoke out of this stupid little pen. Like, that's way cooler. So I've just never understood it at all. And yeah, I just push that message. And even my brother, he's never done any of those things. I believe that he never would, especially because of just me and the way that I've approached that stuff. But if I ever did hear that he tried something like that, I would smack the shit out of him.
You'd be all over
it. Yeah, I'd be like, no. Which actually, I did have a role model who was like that. He's basically like my brother, Trevor, but he's like 30 now. But he used to be he was my original motocross trainer and probably like taught me the most in terms of that, arguably. But he, when I was young, he trained me when I was like 11. We'd be driving to the track and he would be the one who'd tell me, listen, Logan, if I ever hear you try something like that, I will beat the shit out of you. And he'd say it in kind of a fun way, but I mean, even at that time, I didn't care, but it just instilled it in me of like how stupid it is, you know? So it just
you can't be at your A game if you're doing that kind of stuff. I get
that too,
when you're competing, and I mean, and really, you know, because I don't do this stuff either, so I'm with you on that. But I think it's great that you're spreading the message to young people, because you and even aside from your business, you're talking about building your brand, and you are a role model to the youth your age, because you've competed, you've done some great things, and you've got a great message. And I think it's important for young people to hear that. So you need to keep doing that, even if you don't like the social media. I think you should keep doing that stuff, because I think it needs to be. People like us, if we say it, we're the big people, right? Like, we're the parents, and nobody wants to hear the parents. But people like you have a chance to come in and say, hey, you know, this is maybe not cool. Maybe this is cool, right? And it reinforces what we're trying to say, because, you know, it's funny, you know, when I talk about these podcasts that I do, you know, my role, you know, what I say, what I'm doing here, it's all about inspiration. It's about showing people that they can change the trajectory of their lives any day that they choose.
Yeah.
It's giving you guys a platform to talk about your stories, right? But ideally, what we know is that it's hard to get adults to make change. We have the ability to impress upon youth and help them make more change than we do adults, right? My thinking is, if I can get an adult to kind of change their perception, then they have the ability to go change maybe their children or the people around them. So I think it's great when you have a young person comes in and has a message. And I love getting, you know, I had another young girl come on here a while back. I think she was 21. She started a nonprofit at 18. She was like a 3-time cancer survivor. She has a certain type of eye cancer. But what's so neat is she's now written a book. She's going all over like local news around here. She's working with all these organizations. She's getting tons of exposure, and she's just doing what she loves. But she's young, and she's a great role model for the youth to see, you know, here's a cancer survivor that's living her life and doing great things and making change. And so I think it's fun when you guys get to do that stuff, and then we get to talk about it on here and say, hey, we've got a young person on here now. We get to talk about something cool. So you're doing good stuff.
Definitely.
You're doing good stuff.
No, I appreciate it.
So anything exciting coming up for you? I mean, are we doing, I know you're working your business, building your brand, but is there anything coming around the corner that we need to be looking for?
I don't think anything in particular. I'm looking forward to going back to Cape Town at some point. I don't know when that's going to be quite yet. Usually I go during the summers, which I was just there for 3 months. Like, I think it was like mid-February through like April or something like that, or mid-May.
That's awesome.
And then usually I go back like beginning of September through the end of November. But I'm not 100% sure what the plan's going to be. So, but no, aside from that, I will say that seeing my brother win that championship, and I was at home watching the race, it kind of like in my head, I was like, man, I kind of wish I was there, like doing the race. So, I don't know. I've been thinking about potentially like having kind of a comeback at some point. So I don't know if it'll be next year, maybe the year after, but when I do, I'm going to be going all in on it. So that might keep us posted. Come in the future. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'll be all over social media.
I always say never, because the minute you say, you know, we say we're not going to do something again, and then we, you know, that's why I said seasons. It's always, you know, our priorities change, and, you know, and we have time comes open and we decide to do other things. So we'll be looking for
it. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Because I've seen people even in the motocross world who race and stuff, and then they'll they'll make a post on social media and be like, I can't believe I'm making this post, but I'm ending, or my racing career is done. I'm going into college, blah, blah, blah. And I've just never understood that. I'm like, it's not over though. Like you're still 19 or 20.
Right.
Like you're simply just going into a different season of life. Like you can come back to it, So I will never say that I'm done racing. I will just say that's not a part. I just don't have the appetite for that right now, or it's just not within my wheelhouse at the moment, but maybe in the future. So yeah.
All right. Well, any last minute advice you want to give to somebody young that's maybe wanting to start? So maybe they want to start motocross. Maybe they want to go start a business. I don't know. Any last minute advice you want to lend them?
I usually say that I think it's important to understand that everything is in your hands. Like nobody's coming to save you. That's one thing, which a lot of people can get scared about that idea. But I look at it as exciting because it's basically saying like your life's in your hands, like you're in control of it and in control where you're going. So get excited about that. And that means that you can honestly do anything that you want. And I had the conversation with my brother a few months ago where it was like, listen, dude, you're good. You're good at this. And if you really want it, then you can get it. You can go win, which is so cool looking back at that conversation because he literally just won the biggest race. So I was like, I'm going to have a major I told you so when he gets home. But no, I told him that I was like, you can do it. You just have to go all in. Like if you go all in and you put in more work than everybody else, then you will elevate, get better and better and better, and you'll end up making it. So I think those things are really important, and just having a long-term aspect or outlook on things. Like whether you're looking to build a business or get really good at a sport or whatever it is, it's not going to happen overnight, So I like Gary Vee's saying of it, which is understand the macro versus micro, which is understand that things are going to take time, the macro outlook. So like be okay with waiting 10 years before you become a millionaire or whatever it is. Right. But in the micro, which is like day by day, attack it and work as hard as you possibly can in order to still achieve that and get there as fast as you can. So I like those concepts a lot.
Good stuff, Logan. Good stuff. All right. So if our audience wants to catch up with you, follow you, they want to check out the social media that I'm talking about, where do we want to send them?
Yeah. No, my Instagram is Logan_Lessar. So they can find me there. That's where I'm posting daily, like my daily routines, waking up at 4, going to the gym. And then also just, like you said, those posts where I'm talking about kind of things that I've learned and things that I think could genuinely help people every single day. And then if they want to reach out to me, they can reach out to me there as well, join the program, or if they just have a question, they can reach out. So no, my Instagram's the best place.
Okay, good stuff. We'll make sure when this gets put together and all ready to go, we'll get you tagged. And I'm going to follow you so I can keep up with you. So you'll see it's my name. You'll see an invite from me. So this has been good stuff. Sweet. I want to congratulate you on all your success. Congratulations to your brother. You guys sound like an awesome family. You're active. I love it. I think it's great. Leading by example, which is what we want. Yeah. And keep us posted if you decide to get back into the writing part too, so we can follow you and make some notes somewhere.
For sure. You. So definitely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And to our audience, of course, if you enjoy our show, please go check us out over on Apple. Give us a rating over there. You can check us out on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button so we can keep sharing all these incredible stories. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care. Be safe. Be kind to one another. We will see you next time.